Here's what's coming up today on the Prove Me Wrong podcast. The first time I'd heard that, and it really opened my eyes.
Is that not what you bought when you went into
That is not what I bought when I went into the Magnolia Thunder Pussy. When I went into the Magnolia Thunder Pussy, I actually bought... And welcome, everybody, once again to another episode of the Prove Me Wrong podcast. My name is Pete Lieb. I'm your host today. And look who I found sniffing around the bushes. My buddy, Dennis Miller.
How's it going?
Dennis is joining us again today for another episode of my favorite album. The first one went very well. We've got a lot of good feedback on it. We wanted to do it again. If you listened to the last episode, you know who it's going to be about tonight. If you haven't listened to the last episode, let me set the scene for you, okay? The year is 1985 for me personally. I am sitting in my cousin's house in Columbus. I'm about 13 years old. We've probably done some things that 13-year-olds shouldn't do, but my cousin was 18, 19 years old. You know how that goes, Dennis?
I do.
Right? So, bad influence. I'm sitting there. I'm a little bit out of it. My cousin comes along, and I hear from behind me something I've never heard before in my life. And I'm looking around and I'm wondering, what the hell's going on here? And I about lost my fucking mind right there. And I looked around and I said, who the hell is that? And they said to me, well, you know, that's Van Halen. It's weird. I know it sounds really weird that I made it to 13 years old without ever really, and I had heard Van Halen. You hear him on the radio.
Yeah, you had to hear Jump.
Yeah, exactly. I had heard them, but I only heard what the radio gave me at that point. I had not heard anything else. I hadn't really explored it. And so I had never heard Running with the Devil. I never heard anything like that sound. Maybe what we had been doing a little bit prior to that had some effect on how it affected me, but it was amazing. The next day, well, let's be fair. It may not have been the next day. It was 30 years ago. I don't really remember. It was very, very soon after that. My two cousins and I were walking our asses up maybe 2 miles up the road in Columbus, Ohio, to the Magnolia Thunder Pussy. That was the name of the record store, Magnolia Thunder Pussy.
Nice.
No doubt, right?
I like it. I like it already.
It had this awesome sign of this bedraggled-looking cat with headphones on, you know, obviously just rocking out. And I went in there and bought my first Van Halen cassette at that point, right after that. So if you haven't guessed already, Van Halen is going to be our artist of the week this week on my favorite album. Dennis and I have both picked our favorite albums. They are not the same. I'm going to let Dennis go first because he's the guest in-house today. He's going to tell me what his favorite album is. We're going to talk a little bit about why he feels that way. And then we'll do the same for me. And, just kind of fill in the blanks a little bit on our Van Halen history. I mean, again, they were an incredibly influential band, not just for me and you, but for bazillions of young people.
Absolutely.
How many of your friends started the guitar because of Eddie Van Halen?
Lots.
Probably you.
Yeah, definitely one of the reasons for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, Van Halen, the first one, Van Halen 1.
First Van Halen.
I mean, I know it's obvious and I did the same thing with Kiss. I chose the first one, but it has a lot to do with where I was and, you know, it's that old story. But mine's a little bit different. I was younger. Mm-hmm. I had older siblings, 7 years and 4 years older than me. And my brothers had built this fort in the backyard out of plywood. And it was cool. It was 2-story.
Yeah.
And they set up a record player in there. And I used to sneak in there. They didn't like it, but I used to sneak in there. They had a turntable in there, and they had a crate full of records in there. And the first time I snuck in there that I can remember, there was already a record sitting on the turntable. So I dropped the needle on that thing, and I heard the same thing you did.
Yeah.
That reverse car horn, that's what that is.
Is that what that is?
That's a reverse car horn, if you don't know that. But Running with the Devil, that sound, and then that low-E bass thumping, And I think I had the same, I was much younger than you, but, and then I'm sure I listened to the other tracks too, but I remembered just freaking out when I heard Eruption. I was just like, I thought it was like space music or something.
Right.
But I mean, honestly, and the strange thing is, I do remember loving the guitar, but I thought David Lee Roth was just electrifying. Just like, God, how does this guy screech his voice like that? Even thinking that way when I was young, I was like, what is this guy? He's like I think dynamic, steroided out, crazy lunatic, but I was into it. I was like, this guy's crazy, man.
I think that without a doubt, in my opinion, David Lee Roth is the greatest frontman that's ever existed in his heyday. I cannot personally think of a better frontman ever.
It's hard to argue.
And it's not for his vocals. It's not for the way he sang. Sammy Hagar to me was a significant upgrade in terms of vocals, but he could not touch David Lee Roth in terms of
his presence.
His presence on the stage. He could equally be a buffoon and the sexiest fucking man alive within about 2 seconds of each other. You picture him when MTV really hit and they were all over MTV. And the scene from Panama with
when he's in the towel, or he's in the handcuffs and the towel.
Yeah, I just mean him floating across the stage with the radio and his sunglasses on, and he's acting like he's being stupid.
Yeah,
but then at the same point, like I said, every guy wanted to be him at that age.
Oh yeah,
every woman wanted to be with him. He was the greatest, and still is in my mind the greatest frontman ever.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I heard that, and then the very next song that came in here.
There you go.
And you think to yourself, how can anybody do that with their fingers? How's that one guitar? How's that one man playing one guitar?
And not only that, I don't want to talk over this too much, but for the time, how did he get those tones? Like, many, it's still today they're trying to get some tone or something like it, and it's just, to me, when I hear that sound, I'm just like, how that guy was electrifying on the guitar.
I mean, and that was him. If I had read something right, I think that they said that was him just kind of warming up. That was his warm up, and they
just kind of captured it.
They captured it and put it on vinyl. And good God, that's his warm-up.
Yeah.
And you're listening to that. And then again, those were the days before you ever really knew what these guys looked like or actually saw them unless you went to the concert. So you couldn't see them on TV. There was no MTV then. So you don't know what he's doing, how he's making those sounds.
And he used to turn his back.
Right. I heard that, yeah.
So
that guys couldn't steal what he was doing.
Right.
Because it was so cutting edge. It was so amazing.
Sure.
I can't argue with it. Just like with Kiss, I'm a huge Van Halen fan. You could almost say anything outside of maybe Diver Down.
Because it's a cover. It's really
it's just a cover album.
It's a cover record.
You could have said any album other than that one, or anything after.
Diver Down has one of my favorite Van Halen songs, which is Little Guitars. Maybe my favorite Van Halen song. I don't know.
Yeah?
I don't like to say favorite because it can change at a moment's notice with me, but I love Little Guitars. It's an amazing song to me. It just one of those songs that I just always loved. But
I mean, that particular one to me really showed the difference between Eddie and Dave. Because Dave was not necessarily a glorified, but he did a lot of covers in his career. A lot of them. Whether it be California Girls, Down the Road.
A Gigolo.
A Gigolo. He did a lot of covers. It was kind of his... I don't know if it was his thing, but they were always successful, and that was really kind of that big sense of friction between them was that he didn't mind doing that.
Sure.
And Eddie wanted to be more a serious artist, making his own stuff.
Yeah. And another thing about Van Halen 1 is a lot of people don't know is Ice Cream Man is a cover.
Right.
A lot of people do not know that. And if you listen to the original, it's like an old, I don't remember who the artist was, but it's a cover, but it's very much an original cover, if that makes sense. It's, Van Halen definitely made it their own. And even You Really Got Me. I mean, it's a cover,
right.
But Van Halen juiced it up and Van Halenized it, if that's a term. I don't know.
Well, side one is really iconic, right? I mean, between Running with the Devil, You Really Got Me, Ain't Talking About Love, Eruption. I mean, those are classic, iconic Van Halen songs. You hear them
radio
today
songs.
On the radio.
Yeah.
Exactly. The side two, Jamie's Crying, has had staying power.
Love it.
But I'm with you. I love Little Dreamer. I mean,
I was about to say from that point on is my favorite part of the record.
Yes.
Feel Your Love Tonight.
Yes.
Ice Cream Man. All that's Atomic Punk. I mean,
those are by far, they are not the more well-known. They're the kind of the deep cuts, as we say, the B-sides. But, I mean, Little Dreamer to me was, wow, that was the one, I loved it. And Ice Cream Man had that light, it was more of a fun.
Between Dave's charisma and Eddie's fire on the guitar, that's one of his best. Not that there isn't one of his, they're all one of his best.
Right. So I know this was kind of the first time I really heard him kind of being.
Did you ever see him come out with the Ice Cream Sickle guitar live and like that was his shtick? He played this part.
No.
Yeah. So.
But that also again speaks to him going from the dual meaning. I'm the Ice Cream Man. To me, it was just clearly him talking sex. I'll stop me when I'm passing by. All my flavors are going to satisfy you.
Yeah.
So he walked that.
It's
edge.
Almost Gene Simmons.
Well, Gene said no. Dave was always much more clever about it. Gene just came right out and said, "I want to fuck you." Yeah. Dave was,
but I'm going to put it in the weirdest way I can.
Right. That's right.
I'll put my gasoline
somehow
throttle in your tank.
Somehow he makes putting the gas nozzle into your tank. My glove, my hands in your glove. Yeah, but he's
Gene, man.
Yeah, Dave. It's a much more of an illusion. He's painting a picture for you. Yeah. Gene just came more straight at you. But so yeah, I can't fault you for anything on there. But to me, it was again just like with Kiss. To me, it came down to the emotion of it. What did I emotionally connect to? What was the first kind of album? And I know while I just played for you that "Running with the Devil" was really kind of the first time I'd heard that, and it really opened my eyes.
Is that not what you bought when you went into
That is not what I bought when I went into the Magnolia Thunder Pussy. When I went into the Magnolia Thunder Pussy, I actually bought 1984 and brought that bad boy home.
And the keyboard started.
And then all of a sudden, the keyboards began.
Which you probably didn't notice at the time, really infuriated a ton of Van Halen fans. Not me. I mean, I wasn't quite playing guitar yet.
It was,
but I was like, this is great too. I didn't care.
It was definitely a departure, and I think that was also probably one of the things that led to the breakup of that version of the band. But at the time, Jump was everywhere. At the time, it was the album. 1984 was the album. So when I went to the Magnolia Thunder Pussy, I bought 2 albums. I bought Pyromania from Def Leppard and 1984.
That's another discussion altogether.
You're right. We'll have to get there.
Yeah.
So
wore that thing out.
So to me, again, it comes into what did I connect to. So when I hear Van Halen, or I hear Jump, when I hear Panama, when I hear Top Jimmy, that to me is 1 through 9. Every song is a keeper. Drop Dead Legs is amazing. Girl Gone Bad is amazing.
Yeah.
I'll Wait has got that.
I love that song.
That groove to it.
Well, I'm sitting here with you. I mean, I had to choose an album, and I can't. I'm here not to argue about 1984. You haven't mentioned Hot for Teacher yet.
Hot for Teacher. Again, it was one of those ones. I liked it. It to me did not stand up to I'll Wait. I actually liked Top Jimmy and Drop Dead Legs more than Hot for Teacher, as weird as that sounds. Yeah. I love Drop Dead Legs.
That riff is amazing.
I mean, it's just amazing.
Well, Eddie gets all these accolades for his lead playing, but his rhythm playing it's furious. It's amazing. He's just so locked in. And while we're talking all this Eddie Dave, let's not forget about Michael Anthony's contribution to the band with his bass playing and his backup vocals. And there's Alex right there laying the groove down.
This is Drop Dead Legs. The riff is incredible.
You just see Dave in the studio with a bottle of Jack Daniels and just getting ready to, there he is, like he's making it up on the spot or something.
It does seem like he's writing the song as he's singing.
I mean, it does. It just
as he's recording.
It just has that feel like, man, we're just it's probably not really what happened, but it feels that way, and that's a great thing.
To me, I think I fell into the same trap with this album as I did with Lick It Up with Kiss. The production values on it to me were significantly better than what I'd heard to that point. Obviously, they started introducing the synthesizer and the new sounds that they didn't really have up to
the electronic drums.
They were a straight rock and roll band for the first. But you know what I loved about the older stuff? I heard some of the masters. I heard somebody talking about and trying to isolate tracks and isolating Michael Anthony's bass. But you still heard Eddie's guitar in Michael Anthony's because they were all standing there in the same room playing together.
It was a performance.
I miss that. I mean, now all you see are people, hey, I wrote this guitar part, and they email it to someone, and that person puts lyrics to it from in California, and then they send it to the bass player in Minnesota, and nobody is ever looking at each other playing the music.
Yeah, just vibing off each other.
And so you could hear it. They're showing, they were playing Alex's drum parts, and you still heard Eddie's guitar in there. They couldn't separate it because they were in the room together. That is great to me. That's amazing to me.
It's the magic,
No doubt.
I agree with you totally.
But 1984, the only problem I have with Jump is because at the exact same time, there was a song called Jump from the Pointer Sisters. Every time I'm listening to the radio, because you had to catch it. If you want to make a mixtape at that point, and they're saying, hey, the next song coming up will be this, and you always have your mixtape ready. You have it on record and pause, record, play, and pause all at once. And then when you hear them say that, okay, you're ready. And then they'll say Jump, and then here's Jump, and you, boom, hit that, and then it's bum, 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 yo, eyes. It's the Pointer Sisters. I'm like, what the hell's going on? That's the only problem, because they were both huge hits at the exact same time. It has nothing to do with anything. I just always found that funny, that the two songs named Jump were hits at exactly the same time.
Was a mixtape fucker.
No doubt. Yeah, right. I was a mixed. Yeah, no doubt it was. Remember the mixtapes, man?
Yeah, hell yeah.
You would have at least 4 or 5 seconds of the DJ talking before.
You're like, shut up, dude, shut up.
Before I Can't Wait by New Shoes came on.
What the hell are you doing? Shut up.
You taped it. Rock Me Amadeus by Falco.
Oh yeah.
You're pushing. You're waiting. Oh my goodness. Nobody, where were the piracy laws back then when we were just making mixtapes?
And the kids today have, I don't know. There was something pretty cool about that. I mean, I don't know that we thought so at the time, though. I think it was like, hurry, when are they going to play this thing? So I can capture it, so I can listen to it whenever I want.
That's right.
And then you had to go through the pain in the ass of waiting for it to rewind. Now it's just boom, you just push a button and it's right there.
That was ridiculous.
And then if the tape got caught up in the player, you had to pull it out and get a pencil out and rewind it by the
and then every now and then
spool.
On the really good tapes that you really loved, they just snapped. You just broke them.
You have to get out some Scotch tape and
you have to
doctor them up,
fix it.
Yep.
I know I broke Breakfast in America by Supertramp. You can believe it. I played it so much that I broke it. But just to your point, to me, this is probably one of the better. And I know you say it has one of the best guitar solos, but just the beginning.
Oh, Alex! That's what I was saying about Alex. Don't forget about Alex. And Michael
it sounds like a damn motorcycle.
Yep. Or like they say it's a funny car or one of those dragsters.
Or that. It sounds like a Harley Davidson to me.
Yeah, does it? Okay. I'm not a big engine guy,
just because it's on rhythm, but it's kind of almost not on rhythm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just, and then Eddie comes in and just blows you away.
Yep. And the middle section guitar solo just blows my mind.
And then that ridiculous video that goes along with it.
And the suits with the little kids and the...
Well, and David Lee Roth directed that video. That
doesn't shock me.
That was totally his video, and you could see it all day long. And you see those lookalike kids, which were dead on. Those kids look just like...
They should do a Where Are They Now?
Oh, my God.
Where are those kids?
That was great. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention the fact that, like most kids, like probably, 100% of the kids of that age, when they announced that they were splitting, and I had literally just bought the album, and I was in love with the album.
Yeah.
And so then I had started to go back and listen to Van Halen 1, listen to Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, listening to those albums and just like building this love affair, and then boom, gone, over. And it's just, I was distraught, and 5150 came out in 86. And my mom, and I told my mom this story because it's still, even to this day, even though after I told her and apologized, it still makes me feel bad. My mom thought like most mothers, like you probably have thought to your kids at some point or another, thought she was doing the right thing. because she knew how much I loved Van Halen at that point. And so 1986 comes in, 5150 is released. She sees Van Halen, 5150. Pete loves Van Halen. I'm going to buy this for Christmas. She bought me 5150 for Christmas. I opened the wrapper. I look at it.
Talking about a cassette here?
A cassette.
Okay.
Or it might have been no, you know what? I think it was a CD. No, it couldn't have been a CD in 1986.
It could have been, but it would have been early.
I think it was a tape. I think you're right.
Probably,
I think it was a tape.
Probably still was a cassette.
She bought me the tape, and
could have still been vinyl.
And I looked at her. It was not vinyl.
You wouldn't mistake that.
I did not have. When I was coming up, when I was buying stuff, I bought tapes first. I only bought vinyl when I had a little more money later.
Yeah.
I looked at her with this hate. It's like, this isn't Van Halen.
You're not my mother.
What do you, why did you get me this? This isn't Van Halen. This is Van Hagar.
Yep, absolutely. I remember there was a rumor that, and maybe you know about this, or maybe you know if it's true or not, but they were talking about calling the band Van Hagar.
Oh my God.
I don't know if that was really true or not.
That sounds like fake news to me.
I would say BS too,
but so I took that tape and upstairs, and I just put it in my little tape box, because everybody had boxes, cardboard boxes full of their tapes.
Yeah.
And I just I didn't even take it out of the wrapper. I just tossed it in there. And I don't know, 4 or 5 months later, I finally take it out. I take off the wrapping of it, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'll give this a listen. And I get through the first song, and I think what Best of Both Worlds maybe. And then the second song comes in.
Why can't this be love?
And I got so pissed.
I thought you'd left that tape in there.
Fuck, this is great. I fucking love it. And then I was so mad at myself. This was fine. But then when Sammy comes in, that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, this is good.
Yeah, it
took me 20 seconds to realize my mistake.
And nobody wanted what I'm saying. Nobody wanted to like it. I don't think. I mean, there were certain people that I guess maybe, but I didn't want to like it. And my first experience with that song, and I too heard that song first, but that was the single.
Yeah.
And man, we cranked that thing that summer. Oh my God! And then the next one I remember coming out was Summer Nights, but it might have been Best of Both Worlds. But that was a staple of that period for me. One of them,
Well, I was just thinking more because on the tape, Best of Both Worlds, I think was the
might have been
first
second
one?
side, first or second. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the order.
I can't remember what album was what. I know that Why Can't This Be Love was the second song.
Second song. What was
second song on the album?
They had Get Up, Make It Work.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was Get Up.
That was a fast song, but I don't remember what kicked the album off. Hey baby,
hello baby. Good Enough. Good Enough was the first song.
Okay.
And so, that was okay. It was all right. But then when he hit me with Why Can't This Be Love, I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And then I didn't want to like Dreams. I didn't want to like it.
Nobody wanted to like it.
You couldn't help it. It was like an earwig. It got in there and it just bored through your brain.
Sammy's vocals on that song.
Oh my God, they're so good. And people would try to ask me to sing that song. And I can't fucking sing that song.
I think you could sing it.
No shit. When he says higher and higher, he means it. He's going higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
And it is an incredibly difficult song to sing. So I just wanted to, like I said, I apologized to my mom maybe 25 years later. It was literally that long. But I had always thought about that. I thought, because once I had kids, I think it was basically once I had kids. And then I realized the things that parents do, thinking that they're doing the right thing for their kids are just selfish little assholes, and they don't know any different.
No.
They don't know any better. And so the way I talked to my mom was so disrespectful just because she thought she was doing the right thing. And I felt so bad about it then. And she didn't even remember. I told her the story. I said, I apologize for that. She goes, oh, I didn't even remember. Yeah. It didn't even register.
You're out of my will, but I don't remember it.
Yeah. It was a 5-minute conversation for her. It was, okay, whatever. But to me, I harbored that forever. But I think most of it was because I finally realized how wrong I was, that nothing would ever be that good. Nothing would be as good as, and I think 5150 was probably just as good as anything they had done up to that point.
I think
it started to tail off to me after that.
I did want to, I'm sorry, I'm going to back the card up just a little bit because I wanted to talk. I very rarely say derogatory things about Edward Van Halen, but I think, and it's not necessarily derogatory, but I think in this solo for Dreams was the first time I ever really thought that Eddie was kind of copycatting himself because he plays that. It's just a very stereotypical hammer-on line that he plays, and it was just like, oh, Ed, you could have done better than that. I remember, and I still think that of that solo to this day. I was just like,
well, now, do you ever think that maybe part of that was because he also wanted you, because they were getting so far into the synth at that point? You know, the 1984, 5150, that's when they were really, everything was they were almost a synth band for a lot of it.
It was almost like Rush.
Yes, but then, so he was still trying to say, wait a minute, I am still Eddie Van Halen. Here, listen. This is something you recognize. This is something you know. It's something I've done.
Oh, I would imagine you're dead on.
Pay attention.
Yeah, I would imagine you're right with that.
Because when you hear it, you know, when you hear even the beginning of Why Can't This Be Love? Yeah. That's not a guitar. You know that. Right. You know, what are we doing here? Versus, you know, Drop Dead Legs versus anything off of Van Halen 1, where you're coming in hard with some guitar.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. 5150. I listen to it a lot. I don't remember it that deeply on guitar at this point, but there is I don't remember that much fiery guitar on there. I mean, you had Best of Both Worlds. It wasn't fiery though. It's cool.
Well, between Why Can't This Be Love, Dreams, Best of Both Worlds, Love Walks In.
Yeah, Love Wall. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the softer side. Hagar's influence was pretty heavy. You know, a lot heavier than Dave. You could tell the difference. You could tell the musical difference between the guys when they started. And I also think that since Hagar could play, Eddie didn't have to rely on himself for everything. He could get a little bit more, more experimental.
I wonder, and he's probably credited either way, but I wonder if Sammy actually played guitar on that record.
I don't know. It's a good question.
I wonder if he really did.
It's a good question.
Because I know that Sammy always hailed Ed as man.
Oh yeah,
he's the man,
he's
and
the man.
I don't really. There's no real reason for me to play guitar. You know, he did live. I remember enjoying watching those two play guitar off of each other. He didn't play the whole night or anything, but,
right? Well, that is the benefits that he brought. You know, he could do that. He always would say later, when we played at Van Halen, I could do all the Dave stuff. When Dave was playing with Van Halen, he couldn't do the stuff that I was doing. No. You know, so
nor would he probably even have.
He would never even have entertained it.
Yeah, he would. It would have been like, oh no, I'm not doing that. You know, this is the Dave show. But let's talk about. We talked about the Sammy side of it. Let's talk about Dave. Did you remember hearing Yankee Rose for the first time?
Yes.
Holy smoke, man! That thing hit me. Who is this Stevie Vai kid? Because I didn't know who Zappa was, and I didn't know he had played for Alcatraz. I didn't know who Alcatraz was, but he took Yngwie's spot in Alcatraz. There's a lot of things that probably nobody cares about, but so this Stevie Vai kid comes out, and man, Yankee Rose, and that whole record's pretty crazy, but
no doubt
that tune just knocked me. I was like, whoa!
Well, that was what, Skyscraper, right?
No, that's Eat 'Em and Smile. That was first.
That was Eat 'Em and Smile.
It had Going Crazy, and
I love that song. That was a good song.
No, maybe I'm wrong on that. Was that on the EP or no? That's on. I think that's on Eat 'Em and Smile. Tobacco Road, which is a cover.
Yeah, again, a lot of what he was doing.
Ladies' Night in Buffalo. I don't know how much of that stuff you listened to, but yeah, Skyscraper had just like Paradise, and
which I loved.
I love that. Knucklebones.
You know what?
Hot Dog and a Shake.
Unfortunately, Dave, again, his personality is kind of not necessarily a buffoon, but he's a little more happy-go-lucky. Yeah. And when he did not have that more, and I think that it's like anything, two people who are slightly different or bring different influences. It's Lennon McCartney. McCartney is the bubblegum pop guy, and Lennon was the maudlin, I'm so upset and gloomy. But together, you get them together, and they balanced each other out. Dave and Eddie were the same way to me. Dave was I'm going to play just a gigolo, right?
Jackass.
Silly,
and,
silly
Ed
shit like that.
Thought he was a jackass. I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
Most of the time,
but they worked so well together. So when they were apart, that's really where Dave just took off that way. And unfortunately, I think it ultimately hurt his career. I think he could have done more, because sometimes when you take the shackles off, that's not a good thing. For me personally, I didn't think Sting was as good without the other two guys.
Oh, me either.
And
a lot of people love him, but
never.
I agree.
Sometimes you need those other guys as much as you don't like it, because your ego gets in the way and you're thinking, I can do all this without you.
But he seemed like he was I don't know why I'm talking about Sting that much, but he seemed like he was more of an adult contemporary guy after the Police. But Police were they did some ferocious stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, I did love Dave's solo stuff. I've already told you about Steve Vai when he went to Whitesnake, and that was the Whitesnake album, or was it
Slip of the Tongue?
Slip of the Tongue.
Is that right? Yeah,
it was the one right after.
That could have been a Rat record or a Poison record, but
I think it was the one right after.
You're right. The big one.
Still the Night album, whatever that was. And there wasn't one empty space in any song on that album that Steve didn't fill with some little tweak, and it was just
a genius, man.
Sonically, you listen to that with headphones on and you lose your mind. Yeah. I mean, it's every bit as sonically beautiful as if you like a Pink Floyd album where just so many things going on that you can barely keep up with it. But also, you know what? I'll tell you what. I thought you were actually going to go. You said Steve Vai. I thought you were going to talk Gary Cherone for a second.
Oh, you're talking about Van Halen 3?
I thought you were talking about. I thought you were going to say I can't not mention Gary Cherone.
Well, I'm an Extreme fanatic.
I love Extreme. I loved him, and I was actually pretty happy when I heard that Gary Cherone was going to be in the band.
It seemed like a good fit
for me. It didn't work.
No, it didn't work.
I thought there was one song on the album I thought that I got into. Nobody else liked it. I think
was it the Without You song?
No, to me it was a song called From Afar.
Okay, I don't remember it, but I just know that Without You song just didn't seem to. They didn't take any. It didn't have any chords, didn't have any structure. It just seemed like it was like Eddie solo
just kind of flopping around.
Yeah, it was really a bizarre song, and they made that video for it when they were just dancing around in ice castles or whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, Without You was the single. That was the one they released, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
But From Afar was just one of the songs on the album. I think they only released one song on the album. But
that may be right. But I don't remember the song you're talking about.
But again, nobody else I've ever met liked it, but I liked it. It was the only one I thought
don't think
was
anybody else remembers it either. But that's cool. That's what we're here to talk about.
No doubt. So that's my album. I don't know about you. Anything else that you had?
You're back to 1984. Right?
I'm back to 1984. Okay. 1984 was my album. Sorry, I probably should have brought it back. Put a pin in it. Everything up until then, Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning. You can't go wrong, really, with any of those. You can throw a dart at them. Whichever one it hits, play it. It's amazing. Agreed. After OU 812, that's kind of when they...
Yeah,
to me, I was not as much into that after that point.
What they do, like Balance and Unlawful...
For Unlawful, Carnal Knowledge, Balance...
It had some stuff on it, but Right Now was on there. I don't mind that song.
I
don't love it, but I don't hate it.
Well,
it's all right.
They had Pound Cake. Pound Cake's not a bad
I just
song.
Can't get on with that lyric. It's like, Pound Cake?
And actually, I'll tell you what, which album was that on? Amsterdam. I loved...
Was that on Balance? No, that might have... I think that might have been on... the Fuck album, for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge.
It isn't. It is on Balance.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. So, man, I just love that because of the harmonies. And you had mentioned previously about Michael Anthony, and I brushed over it.
Yeah, don't brush over Mike, man.
There was no Van Halen sound without those harmonies, without those vocals.
And they bag on him so hard.
They give him shit.
I don't like that, man, because he seems. I mean, obviously, we don't know any of those guys from a hole in our head, but. He just seems like he's the best one, you know, as far as just being a good guy.
Well, if you listen to rumors or believe rumors, they were trying to get rid of him. Eddie was trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, because
very early in there.
Billy Sheehan said that they contacted him.
And that was like, what, 3 albums in? Something like that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, early but something like that, yeah.
I mean, he made 6, 7 more albums with him after that.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why Eddie started to kind of bag on his playing, and I had to show him how to play the bass and how to play all this stuff. FYI, not everybody is as fucking good at the guitar as you are, Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like Michael Jordan being pissed because
Scottie Pippen
couldn't shoot a jumper quite as well as he could. Well, fuck you. You're Michael Jordan.
Yeah. You don't need 2 Michael Jordans on a team.
Michael Jackson getting mad because Tito can't dance the way Michael can, and I have to teach him how to dance. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Eddie is a one of a lifetime talent. Michael may not be a one of a lifetime talent, but that does not mean that he needs to catch that kind of.
He sure enhanced
Eddie
Van Halen's
talent,
and I think Eddie should. And I'm sure deep down he's very grateful for all of those guys. who knows? We don't know.
Well,
I don't know what he's up to. He's not putting music out.
No.
And the last music he did put out was just way old, just old demos of their old stuff.
Well, there was some album that came out, 2012? And it just...
With Tattoo and...
It was called...
I can't remember the name. A
Different Kind of Truth is the album.
Yeah, that's it.
And I think David Lee was the singer.
Yeah. It was everybody but Mike.
Everybody but Michael?
I guess Wolf, maybe this Eddie's son played on that one.
And oh my God, to me that was a mess. They played the one song on the radio one time. I was like,
Tattoo.
oh my, what the hell is this? I'm listening. It was just like what you were saying. It just kind of seemed like a collection of notes that didn't actually form anything.
Yeah, just...
And I wasn't sure what they were doing there. And it's unfortunate.
Maybe they self-produced or something. You know what I mean? Maybe they didn't get a producer to reel them in or something. I don't know.
Because I thought they did that anyway. I thought that's the whole 5150 studio that they have.
You know who did 5150? Your guy from Foreigner, Mick Jones.
Oh, really?
He produced that record.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Well, I guess I just meant he had his own studio, so he could really kind of do anything he wanted there.
But they did make... That's a cool little piece of trivia for you.
Oh,
but it was Ted Templeman that did all the stuff up to that point, I think. So, you got to have somebody to... Most bands, anyway, need someone to... You say, all right, that's... you don't need a 10-minute guitar solo right there. Only 8.
Well, and bad as it sounds, sometimes you just hit the bottom of the well, and there's not a whole lot else in the tank. And, people keep making albums just because that's what they do. They don't know any different. They make albums because it's just like getting up and brushing their teeth. And so, okay, I'll just keep making them. Like the Stones have made 45 albums, and maybe Tattoo You or maybe something like that, early 80s would have been the last one that was, I guess, maybe something in the early 90s.
I'd go with you on Tattoo You. I didn't know which point you were making about Tattoo You, but yeah,
I'm just saying that's about
that's the last one that I listened to. I can tell you that. And I'm not the hugest Stones fan in the world, but I like some of their stuff. I think they're cool.
I guess the point I was just making is that sometimes it's like anything. It's like the athlete that retires too late. Anybody who's at the top of their game, and there's this intoxication that goes along with.
Not everybody can be Barry Sanders.
That's right. Who can just walk away from that.
Damn straight.
Just walk away.
Good for you, Barry Sanders, if you ever listen
Good
to
on
this.
you, Barry. Man, I was so upset when Barry Sanders retired. There's not
I
a whole...
know, but that guy was so awesome.
That's what I'm saying. There's not a whole lot of people that you could hate the team. I hated the Detroit Lions. I couldn't give a shit about the Detroit Lions. I would watch just for Barry Sanders.
Because he
just for him. No other reason.
It's like, let's put 5 of the shittiest players in front of you and give you the ball and see what you can do and turn guys inside out and just... Unbelievable.
4 runs in a row for -4. The 5th run was 65-yard touchdown. I mean, it was amazing.
He was just playing with the defense that first 4 times just to,
So maybe at some point you've hit kind of the bottom of the barrel, and who knows what happened. But still, to this day, one of my favorite bands ever. First 5-6 albums, even when we got into Sammy, I was still way in once I finally got over my hang-up.
Yeah.
It was all me. It wasn't you, Mom. It was me.
These things happen.
These things happen.
Yeah.
Any other final parting shots regarding Van Halen? I think we've covered your favorite album, Van Halen 1. Iconic.
But I like 1984 a whole bunch, too, so I just had to choose one to talk about.
It's hard to go wrong.
Number 1's awesome.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
What is your favorite album? What is your favorite Van Halen album out there? Is it Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, 1984, Balance? What is it? Feel free to give us a line, drop us a line. We have an email account here with Prove Me Wrong Podcast. It's provemewrongcast@gmail.com. You can also respond back on Facebook. Our Facebook page is called Prove Me Wrong. You can contact us on Instagram, Prove Me Wrong on Instagram. And if you're just looking for more content, you can find it with the podcast app. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Tunein Radio, Spotify, really anywhere that you find your podcast, you can find Prove Me Wrong. But we would love to hear your feedback on this particular show or any show, what your favorite album is for Van Halen and why. Kind of give us your sense or why we're wrong about it. It's not a big deal. The show is called Prove Me Wrong. If you think that Diver Down is...
We're not.
We're not. But if you can prove to me why Diver Down is better than Van Halen 1, go right ahead.
Shoot it out.
I'm sure there's some... What's that guy's name? Beato? What's his name?
Rick Beato.
Rick Beato. I'm sure he can probably break it down for me note by note and tell me exactly why Diver Down is better than Van Halen 1.
I don't think he would.
I don't think he would try.
I think
he's more like you, that he's like, to hell with that.
Yeah.
For my buddy Dennis Miller, let me put a bow on this mess and say that this episode of the Prove Me Wrong podcast is brought to you by Zendozone's Citronella Burners from JT Eaton. They are shaped like fearless little tiki gods, and let Surf and Stan, Hawaiian Howie, and Luau Lily bring the islands to your backyard with Zendozone's Citronella Burners. Zendozone's uses 3% natural citronella candles and incense cones, and they're perfect for patios, decks, backyards, campsites, poolside, and more. You can enjoy the outdoors again. Zendozones are a friend of the podcast, and they're a great product. They're available on Amazon and at Ace Hardware. Collect them all today. The next My Favorite Album episode is going to be our favorite album from the Beatles. I probably should have started there. All good things start at the Beatles, right? That's where all roads lead.
And I don't think we're going to see eye to eye on this one.
We probably will not.
I don't think so.
Because the Beatles, like almost everybody I know, were one of the most influential bands in my life, for sure. To this day, my wedding song was Here, There, and Everywhere off of Revolver. So
Nice.
Revolver may not, or it may be my favorite album. You'll have to tune in next time and find out. So for Dennis Miller, D-Mill, this is Pete Lieb once again, and this has been my favorite album, Van Halen, and it's the Prove Me Wrong podcast.